You've visualized, you've affirmed, you hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled just as the masters have taught you. Yet here you remain, suspended in what can only be called the waiting place, that frustrating limbo where your spirit knows what it wants, but your reality refuses to cooperate. You're waiting for a sign, for inspiration, for the universe to make the next move, checking your phone for that breakthrough call, refreshing your email for that life-changing opportunity. But what if I told you that the universe has been waiting all along, waiting for you to understand the most misunderstood principle in all of manifestation? What if the very act of waiting is the invisible prison that keeps your desires forever out of reach? The pain you feel is not unique to you, it's the silent epidemic of our age. Millions have discovered the power of thought, the law of attraction, the secret of visualization, yet they remain paralyzed in their current circumstances, watching others seemingly manifest with ease while they stay stuck. This paralysis that follows deep spiritual work is perhaps the cruelest irony of all. You've done the inner work, you've raised your vibration, you've aligned with your desire, but nothing moves. Days turn to weeks, weeks to months, and doubt begins to creep in like a poison, whispering that perhaps you're not worthy, perhaps you're doing it wrong, perhaps the universe has forgotten about you entirely. The modern teachers of manifestation, in their enthusiasm to correct the old paradigm of struggle and force, have swung the pendulum too far in the opposite direction. They've created a generation of passive dreamers who believe that thinking alone will reshape reality, that the universe will simply drop success into their laps if they can just visualize hard enough. But the grandfather of this entire science, Wallace D. Wattles, understood something crucial that has been lost in translation, a missing link so fundamental that without it, all your mental work becomes nothing more than elaborate daydreaming. He taught that you must combine your unwavering faith with a very specific type of action, an action so precise and powerful that it makes your success not just possible, but mathematically inevitable. This is the promise I make to you today. You will learn the formula for what Wattles called efficient action, the practical day-to-day method that builds the bridge between your inner vision and its physical materialization. This is not about working harder or hustling until you burn out. This is about understanding the exact nature of action that cooperates with universal law rather than fighting against it. You will discover why most people's actions actually repel their desires, and how to act in a way that magnetically draws your good to you with the same certainty that gravity draws objects to Earth. Wallace D. Wattles was not a mystic who spoke in riddles, nor was he a motivational speaker who dealt in empty platitudes. He was a pragmatic philosopher, a man who understood that spiritual laws must be applied with the same precision as mathematical formulas. His 1910 masterwork, The Science of Getting Rich, laid the logical foundation for the entire manifestation movement that would follow, yet his most powerful teaching, the principle of advance through efficient action, has been largely forgotten or misunderstood. While others spoke of faith and feeling, Wattles spoke of faith expressed through intelligent doing. While others promised overnight miracles, he promised inevitable success through daily excellence. This video will not merely inspire you with another feel-good message that fades by tomorrow. Instead, you will receive a clear, actionable strategy that you can implement immediately, starting from wherever you are right now with whatever resources you currently possess. You will learn how to act in what Wattles called the certain way, a method of living and working that aligns your every movement with the creative forces of the universe. When you understand and apply this principle, success becomes not a matter of luck or timing or connections, but a mathematical certainty, as predictable as the sunrise. Your circumstances will begin to shift, not because you've found some magic formula, but because you've learned to cooperate with the fundamental laws that govern all creation. But I must warn you about a critical misunderstanding that sabotages most people before they even begin. They confuse efficient action with frantic hustling, with the exhausting grind that our culture celebrates, but that actually repels abundance. This distinction is so subtle yet so crucial that missing it will doom you to endless striving without achieving. By the end of this video, you will understand precisely how to avoid this trap, how to act from power rather than desperation, how to work with joy rather than anxiety. If you've ever felt stuck in the waiting place, if you're ready to bridge the gap between vision and reality, comment below with the words, "I'm ready to act," and let's begin this transformation together. The logic that Wattles presents is both mystical and mathematical, spiritual and scientific. He begins with a premise that quantum physics would later confirm. There exists a thinking substance from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought held in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by that thought. When you hold a clear mental image of what you desire, impressed with faith and purpose upon this formless substance, you set in motion forces that begin immediately to work toward the materialization of that image. This is not wishful thinking or new age fantasy. This is the fundamental creative process of the universe itself, the same process by which a seed becomes a tree, an idea becomes an invention, a vision becomes reality. But here is where most students of manifestation stop, believing their work is done once they've impressed their thought upon the universal substance. They sit back and wait for their desire to materialize out of thin air, growing increasingly frustrated when nothing appears. Wattles reveals the missing piece. While the creative energy is indeed producing your desire, while the universe is indeed conspiring to bring it about, this creation is moving toward you through existing channels of the physical world. It's coming through people, through circumstances, through opportunities that must be recognized and acted upon. The universe doesn't drop $1 million from the sky. It provides the idea, the connection, the opportunity that, when acted upon, produces the $1 million. Think of it this way. When you order something online, the company doesn't teleport the item into your living room. They prepare your order, they load it onto a truck, they drive it to your address, but you must be there to receive it. You must open the door when the delivery arrives. You must sign for the package. You must bring it inside and open it. If you're not home, if you don't answer the door, if you refuse to sign, the package cannot be delivered, no matter how badly you want it or how clearly you placed the order. The universe operates on the same principle. It delivers. But it delivers to your current address, to your current state of readiness, to your current capacity to receive. This is why Wattles insists that you must act in your present environment, no matter how limited it may seem. You cannot receive tomorrow's blessings with yesterday's consciousness, and you cannot receive a larger life while refusing to fill your current life to its fullest capacity. Every action you take is either opening the channel wider for your good to flow through, or it's constricting that channel through neglect, fear, or half-hearted effort. The universe is not testing your worthiness, it's responding to your readiness. It's not judging your past, it's responding to your present state of receptivity. The creative process is always working, always producing, always moving your desire toward you, but its ability to deliver depends entirely on your ability to receive through action. When you understand this, you realize that waiting passively is not spiritual. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how creation works. The farmer who plants no seeds cannot blame the soil for producing no harvest. The musician who never practices cannot blame the universe for providing no opportunities to perform. The entrepreneur who takes no action toward their business cannot wonder why success eludes them. Consider how nature itself operates. A tree doesn't simply visualize becoming taller. It actively reaches toward the sun, extends its roots deeper into the earth, converts sunlight into energy through its leaves. Every aspect of its being is engaged in the act of growth. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It grows through whatever conditions exist, adapting, persisting, actively participating in its own expansion. This is the model for human achievement that Wattles presents, not passive waiting, but active cooperation with the creative process. Your thoughts create the mold, but your actions create the channels through which the substance flows into that mold. Without action, you have created a perfect blueprint with no construction crew to build it. Without action, you have composed a beautiful symphony with no orchestra to play it. Without action, you have written a check with no bank account to draw from. The thought is essential. It's the cause, the seed, the blueprint. But action is the process through which thought becomes thing. This is why so many people fail despite perfect visualization, despite strong faith, despite clear intention. They have mastered the first half of the equation, but ignored the second. They are like someone who plants seeds in fertile soil, waters them with faith, shines the light of visualization upon them, but then never actually breaks the ground to plant them. The potential remains forever potential, the possibility forever possibility, because the crucial link of action is missing. Acting in the certain way that Wattles describes is not about forcing outcomes or manipulating circumstances. It's about preparing yourself to receive what is already moving toward you. Every action taken in this certain way increases your capacity to receive. Every task completed with excellence expands your channel of supply. Every day lived with purpose and efficiency accelerates the materialization of your desire. You're not making it happen through force, you're allowing it to happen through readiness. The universe has infinite organizing power, infinite resources, infinite ways to deliver your good to you, but it must work through the laws of the physical realm once the creative process enters the physical dimension. These laws require action, movement, engagement with the world around you. A job opportunity requires you to apply. A relationship requires you to engage. A business requires you to serve. Wealth requires you to provide value. Health requires you to move your body. Every desire has its corresponding action, and that action is not separate from the manifestation process. It's an integral part of it. When you truly grasp this principle, everything changes. You stop waiting for signs and start recognizing that your ability to act is the sign. You stop looking for permission and realize that your desire itself is the permission. You stop postponing your good until conditions are perfect and understand that acting in the certain way creates the perfect conditions. The universe is not withholding anything from you. It's waiting for you to build the channels through which it can pour its abundance. This understanding transforms manifestation from a passive hope into an active certainty. You know that your thought has set the creative process in motion. You know that the universe is working to bring about your desire. And you know that your role is to act in such a way that you can receive what is being prepared for you. This is not about earning or deserving. It's about aligning your actions with the creative process that is already underway. The beauty of this principle is its complete democracy. It doesn't matter where you're starting from, what your current circumstances are, what limitations you seem to face. The creative process works the same for everyone, and the principle of efficient action can be applied by anyone, anywhere, at any time. You don't need special talents, connections, or resources. You need only to understand the principle and apply it consistently, and your success becomes as certain as any mathematical equation. Wattles offers us a powerful analogy that cuts through all confusion and complexity, bringing the principle of efficient action into crystal clarity. Consider the farmer who stands at the edge of his field in spring. He can have perfect, unwavering faith that the soil contains all the nutrients needed for growth. He can visualize with absolute clarity his barns overflowing with the harvest. He can affirm daily that abundance is his birthright, that the sun will shine and the rain will fall. He can meditate on the feeling of satisfaction as he surveys his prosperous farm. But if he does not perform the efficient action of actually plowing the field and planting the seed today, if he does not tend to the crop through the growing season, his faith is useless, his visualization is fantasy, and his barns will remain forever empty. This is not because the universe is cruel or because the law of attraction doesn't work. It's because the farmer has understood only half of the equation. The soil is indeed fertile. This represents the infinite substance from which all things are made. The sun will indeed shine and the rain will fall. These represent the unfailing laws of the universe that support all growth. But the seed must be planted, the field must be tended, the harvest must be gathered. These actions are not separate from the creative process. They are the physical component of it, as essential as the metaphysical component of faith and vision. Now consider how absurd it would be for the farmer to plant his seeds and then dig them up every day to see if they're growing. Consider how futile it would be for him to plant in one field today, then change his mind and plant in another field tomorrow, then return to the first field the next day. Consider how destructive it would be for him to plant the seeds but then neglect to water them, or to water them but then allow weeds to choke them out. Yet this is exactly what most people do with their desires. They plant them with visualization, but then they either neglect the necessary action or they take scattered, inconsistent action that undermines their own creative process. The farmer knows that there is a season for planting and a season for harvesting, and that patient, consistent action must fill the time between. He doesn't plant corn and expect to harvest wheat. He doesn't plant in summer and expect to harvest in spring. He works with the laws of nature, not against them. He understands that his role is to create the conditions for growth, to cooperate with the natural process, to be ready when the harvest comes. This is the same relationship we must have with our desires. We must plant them with thought, tend them with action, and trust the process of growth. But here's what makes Wattles' teaching so profound. He's not simply saying take action in the conventional sense. He's revealing that there is a specific quality of action that aligns with universal law, just as the farmer's actions must align with agricultural law. You cannot plant seeds in frozen ground. You cannot harvest before the crop is ripe. You cannot skip the cultivation and expect abundance. Similarly, you cannot take fearful, desperate action and expect prosperous results. You cannot act from lack and expect to create abundance. You cannot violate the laws of efficient action and expect the universe to compensate for your violation. The farmer doesn't go to his field and beg the soil to produce. He doesn't plead with the sun to shine more brightly just for him. He doesn't try to negotiate with the rain clouds. He simply does his part with the calm confidence that nature will do its part. He acts not from desperation, but from knowledge. He works not from fear, but from faith. His actions are efficient because they are aligned with the natural process, not fighting against it. This is the quality of action that Wattles is teaching, action that cooperates with universal law rather than trying to force outcomes through human will alone. Consider what would happen if the farmer decided that he was too spiritual to actually plant seeds, that his consciousness alone should be enough to produce the harvest. He would starve not because he lacks faith, but because he has misunderstood the nature of creation itself. Creation in the physical realm requires physical participation. The universe has given us bodies, hands, voices, the ability to move and act and create in the physical dimension. To refuse to use these gifts while expecting physical results is not spiritual. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of our role in the creative process. The farmer's work is not separate from his faith. It's the expression of it. Every seed he plants is an act of faith that it will grow. Every day he tends his field is a demonstration of his belief in the coming harvest. His action and his faith are not two different things. They are the same thing expressing itself in different dimensions. His thought creates the vision of the harvest. His feeling generates the faith in its certainty. And his action provides the physical channel through which the harvest can manifest. Remove any of these three elements, and the creative process breaks down. This is why Wattles insists that action is not optional, not secondary, not something you do after the real work of visualization. Action is the completion of the creative circuit. It's the grounding wire that allows the electrical current of creation to flow from the realm of pure potential into the realm of physical reality. Without it, the energy has nowhere to go, no way to express itself, no channel through which to manifest. You become like a dam holding back water, full of potential power but producing no actual result. The farmer also teaches us about timing and patience. He doesn't plant seeds and expect to harvest the next day. He understands that growth takes time, that there are stages of development that cannot be rushed. But, and this is crucial, he doesn't use this as an excuse for inaction. He doesn't say, well, since the harvest won't come immediately, I might as well not plant at all. He plants at the proper time, he tends through the growing season, and he's ready when harvest time arrives. His patience is active, not passive. His waiting is filled with appropriate action, not empty hope. This agricultural wisdom extends to every area of life. Your career is a field that must be planted and tended. Your relationships are gardens that require daily care. Your health is a crop that needs consistent cultivation. Your wealth is a harvest that comes from seeds of value planted and nurtured over time. In each area, the same law applies. Thought creates the seed, feeling provides the faith, but action is the planting, the tending, the harvesting. Without all three, the creative process remains incomplete. The farmer knows something else that's crucial. You cannot harvest what you have not planted. If you want corn, you must plant corn. If you want wheat, you must plant wheat. You cannot plant thistles and expect roses. Similarly, if you want success, you must take successful action. If you want wealth, you must take wealth-producing action. If you want love, you must take loving action. The quality of your harvest is determined by the quality of your seeds and the quality of your cultivation. This is not punishment or reward. It's simply law, as impersonal and reliable as gravity. When you truly understand this farmer's wisdom, you stop looking for shortcuts. Stop hoping for miracles that violate natural law. Stop waiting for someone else to plant your field for you. You understand that you have been given everything you need: the fertile soil of infinite substance, the seeds of your desires, and the ability to act. The universe has already done its part by providing the framework within which creation can occur. Now it waits for you to do your part, not as a test or a requirement, but as a necessary component of the creative process itself. The mindset required for efficient action is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of Wattles' teaching, because it runs counter to everything our culture has taught us about achievement. We have been conditioned to believe that we must act from hunger, from desperation, from the fear that if we don't scramble and fight, we'll be left behind. We've been taught that success comes to those who sacrifice everything, who work themselves to exhaustion, who treat life like a battlefield where only the most aggressive survive. But Wattles reveals a truth so radical that it completely inverts this paradigm. You do not act to get the result. You act with the calm and confident faith that the result is already yours. This is not a semantic trick or a psychological game. This is about aligning your consciousness with the fundamental truth that creation is finished the moment true decision is made. When you act from the consciousness of already having, rather than trying to get, everything about your action changes. Your movements become graceful rather than frantic. Your decisions come from clarity rather than confusion. Your work flows from inspiration rather than desperation. You're not trying to force the universe to give you something it's withholding. You're simply taking possession of what has already been given in consciousness. This is what it means to act from a state of fullness and power, rather than from a state of fear and lack. You are not a beggar pleading for scraps. You are an heir claiming your inheritance. Consider the difference between a person who goes to a job interview, desperate for the position, radiating need and anxiety, versus someone who walks in knowing they are the perfect candidate, that the position is already theirs in consciousness, that this interview is simply the formal process through which what has been decided in the invisible becomes visible. The quality of their presence is entirely different. Their answers come from confidence rather than calculation. They're not trying to convince anyone of anything. They're simply being themselves, knowing that who they are is exactly what's needed. This is the quality of consciousness from which efficient action springs. This mindset recognizes a profound truth. You are not trying to make it happen, because it has already happened in the realm of cause. You are simply doing today's work successfully because you are already a successful person in consciousness. A successful person doesn't do successful things to become successful. They do successful things because they are successful. The action flows from the identity, not toward it. This is the complete reversal of how most people approach achievement, and it's why most people struggle while a few seem to manifest with ease. When you embody this consciousness, every action becomes an expression of who you already are, rather than an attempt to become something you're not. The writer doesn't write to become a writer. She writes because she is a writer. The entrepreneur doesn't start a business to become successful. He starts it as an expression of the success he already embodies. The artist doesn't create to prove her worth. She creates as an overflow of the worth she already knows. This is not pretending or affirmation or positive thinking. This is aligning your consciousness with the truth that your desire would not have been given to you unless the means for its fulfillment were already available. This state of consciousness transforms work from burden to joy, from obligation to opportunity. When you're not working to get something but working from having it in consciousness, there's no stress, no strain, no exhaustion that comes from pushing against resistance. You're flowing with the current of creation rather than swimming against it. You're cooperating with the process rather than trying to control it. You're allowing success rather than forcing it. This doesn't mean you work less. It means you work differently, from a completely different energetic state. The person acting from fullness makes decisions quickly and clearly because they're not paralyzed by fear of making the wrong choice. They know that their success is assured, so they can afford to make decisions, to take risks, to move forward without guarantee. They understand that even what appear to be mistakes are simply part of the process, course corrections that lead to the ultimate destination. They don't need to see the whole staircase. They just need to take the next step with confidence that it's leading somewhere good. This consciousness of already having also eliminates competition in the negative sense. When you know that your good is assured, you don't need to take from others or prevent others from succeeding. You can celebrate others' success because you know it doesn't diminish your own. You can cooperate rather than compete, create rather than capture, give rather than grasp. This puts you in harmony with the creative forces of the universe rather than in conflict with them. You become a center of increase rather than decrease, and the universe responds by increasing you. Acting from this state requires a kind of faith that most people have never developed. Not faith in some future outcome, but faith in a present reality that hasn't yet become visible. It's the faith of the pregnant woman who knows she carries life even before she shows. It's the faith of the gardener who tends the soil even before the first green shoot appears. It's the faith of the architect who sees the completed building while looking at an empty lot. This faith is not hope. Hope implies doubt. This faith is knowledge, as certain as knowing the sun will rise tomorrow. The challenge is maintaining this consciousness in the face of appearances that seem to contradict it. When your bank account says you're broke, can you act from the consciousness of wealth? When your business has no customers, can you act from the consciousness of success? When your body feels sick, can you act from the consciousness of health? This is not about denying current conditions. It's about not being hypnotized by them, not allowing them to dictate your consciousness and therefore your actions. This is why Wattles emphasizes that each action must be performed from a state of power, not weakness. When you write that email, write it from the consciousness of someone whose communication matters. When you make that sales call, make it from the consciousness of someone who has tremendous value to offer. When you do that task, no matter how menial it might seem, do it from the consciousness of someone whose work is important. This is not arrogance. It's alignment with your true nature as a creative being made in the image of the infinite creator. The person who has mastered this consciousness doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect before acting perfectly. They understand that perfect action creates perfect conditions. They don't wait to feel successful before acting successfully. They act successfully and thereby generate the feeling of success. They don't wait for confidence. They act confidently and confidence follows. They don't wait for inspiration. They begin, and inspiration meets them in the action. This mindset also transforms how you view your current circumstances. Instead of seeing your present job as a prison, you see it as your current channel of supply and opportunity. Instead of resenting where you are, you recognize it as the perfect starting point for where you're going. Instead of waiting to escape your current situation before you begin living successfully, you bring success to your current situation and watch it transform, or watch yourself be promoted out of it into something better. When you act from the consciousness of already having, you also eliminate the desperate attachment to outcomes that sabotages so many people's efforts. You can plant seeds without digging them up every day to check their progress. You can take action without constantly measuring whether it's working. You can give your best without needing immediate validation or reward. This detachment is not indifference. It's the confidence that comes from knowing the outcome is assured, that the only variable is timing, not weather. This consciousness of acting from fullness rather than lack, from having rather than wanting, from being rather than becoming, is the master key to efficient action. It transforms everything you do from an act of desperation to an act of creation, from an attempt to get to an expression of what you have, from a struggle to a flow. When you master this, you don't just achieve success, you become it, and everything you touch is elevated by your presence. The beautiful paradox is that when you stop trying to get and start acting from having, you get more than you ever imagined possible. When you stop chasing success and start embodying it, success chases you. When you stop working to become and start working from being, becoming happens naturally and inevitably. This is the secret that the masters have always known. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. The execution of acting in the certain way requires a precision that most people have never brought to their daily lives. This is not about working harder or longer. It's about working with such clarity and focus that every action becomes a perfect expression of the success you already are in consciousness. The first principle is revolutionary in its simplicity. Conquer today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are better. Today. Your only point of power exists in this 24-hour period that stretches before you. Yesterday is gone, its successes and failures equally irrelevant to this moment. Tomorrow is a phantom, a projection that has no substance until it becomes today. But today is your kingdom, your canvas, your opportunity to demonstrate who you really are. To conquer today means to approach this day as if it were both your first and last day on earth. It means bringing the full force of your consciousness to bear on the tasks before you, not scattered across regrets about yesterday or anxieties about tomorrow. When you sit down to work, you are fully there, not mentally rehearsing future conversations or replaying past mistakes. When you engage with someone, you give them your complete presence, not the divided attention of someone whose mind is elsewhere. This is not just about productivity. It's about aligning yourself with the fundamental truth that creation only happens in the present moment. The universe doesn't operate in the past or future. It operates now. And when you align yourself with now, you align yourself with the creative power of the universe itself. The person who conquers today doesn't wake up already defeated by the weight of all they haven't accomplished. They wake up fresh, ready, knowing that this day is a clean slate upon which they can write whatever they choose. They don't carry yesterday's failures into today's opportunities. They don't allow tomorrow's challenges to poison today's peace. They understand that life is not a marathon to be endured, but a series of single days to be lived fully, and that success is not some distant achievement, but the accumulation of successfully lived todays. This brings us to the second principle: do all that can be done. This is where most people fail, not through lack of effort, but through lack of completion. They start 10 things and finish 2. They do most of what they planned, but leave crucial tasks undone. They work hard for 6 hours, then waste 2 hours that could have completed their day's victory. Wattles is uncompromising here. You must complete every task that can be done today. Not every task that exists in the universe, not every task on your someday list, but every task that belongs to today and can be accomplished within today. This principle builds something crucial: momentum and a consciousness of completion. When you end each day knowing you have done all that could be done, you build a psychology of success that compounds over time. You train yourself to be someone who finishes, who completes, who doesn't leave loose ends. This consciousness of completion attracts more opportunities for completion. The universe recognizes you as someone who can be trusted with bigger tasks because you complete the smaller ones. You become a finisher in consciousness, and finishers are the ones who receive the rewards. But here's the key distinction. Doing all that can be done doesn't mean doing everything conceivable. It means identifying what truly belongs to today and completing it fully. It's not about frantic activity or trying to compress a week's work into a day. It's about clarity, knowing what must be done today and doing it completely. This requires planning, prioritization, and the wisdom to know what can wait. The person who tries to do everything accomplishes nothing. The person who does everything that belongs to today conquers the day. The third principle transforms everything. Do each act in a successful manner. This is where the rubber meets the road, where consciousness becomes concrete. Whether you are washing dishes, writing an email, making a phone call, or closing a $1 million deal, you put your whole soul into it. You do it perfectly, completely, with the full force of your being. This is not perfectionism in the neurotic sense. It's excellence as an expression of who you are. You don't do things in a sloppy, half-hearted way, because sloppy, half-hearted action creates sloppy, half-hearted results. When you commit to doing each act in a successful manner, something magical happens. The most mundane tasks become sacred practices. Answering an email becomes an opportunity to demonstrate excellence. Cleaning your workspace becomes an act of success consciousness. Every interaction becomes a chance to express the highest version of yourself. You're not waiting for important work to show up before you act importantly. You bring importance to whatever work is before you. This is how you build the consciousness of success, one perfectly executed action at a time. Consider what happens when you half-do things. You send an email without proofreading it, and it contains errors that diminish your credibility. You have a conversation while checking your phone, and you miss the crucial information that was shared. You complete a task just well enough to check it off, and later you have to redo it or deal with the problems your haste created. Every half-done action creates a debt that must eventually be paid, usually with interest. But when you do each act in a successful manner the first time, you create credit in the bank of consciousness. You build a reputation with the universe as someone who can be trusted with more. This principle extends to the smallest actions. How you make your bed in the morning sets the tone for how you'll approach the day. How you dress tells the universe how seriously you take yourself. How you speak to the cashier at the coffee shop demonstrates your level of success consciousness. There are no unimportant actions when you understand that every action is either building or diminishing your consciousness of success. Every action is a vote for who you are becoming. The fourth principle is perhaps the most powerful. Give more in use, value than you take in cash value. This is the principle of advance that guarantees your progression from where you are to where you want to be. In every transaction, but especially in your work, you must give more value than you receive in payment. This doesn't mean working for free or allowing yourself to be exploited. It means that the use value of what you provide, the real benefit to the recipient, exceeds what they pay you. This creates what Wattles calls an advancing atmosphere around you that makes your promotion inevitable. When you fill your current position to overflowing, when you become bigger than your current role, you create a vacuum that the universe must fill by promoting you to a larger role. The person who does only what they're paid for will only ever be paid for what they do. But the person who gives more than they're paid for will soon be paid for more than they do. This is not about fairness in the petty human sense. It's about aligning yourself with the law of increase that governs all creation. Think about what happens in any organization when someone truly embodies this principle. They don't just do their job, they improve systems, they mentor others, they solve problems no one asked them to solve. They don't wait for their job description to expand. They expand themselves and watch their job description race to catch up. They don't negotiate for every penny before they'll do extra work. They do extra work and watch compensation flow to them from expected and unexpected sources. They become indispensable not through political maneuvering, but through the sheer value they provide. This principle of giving more in use value applies to every area of life. In relationships, you give more love than you demand in return. In friendships, you provide more support than you require. In business, you deliver more value than your price suggests. This is not about being a martyr or a doormat. It's about aligning yourself with the fundamental law of increase. The universe is always expanding, always creating more. And when you align yourself with this expanding force by giving more, you become a channel through which increase flows, and you cannot help but be increased yourself. The person who masters these four principles doesn't need to worry about competition or comparison. They are competing only with their own potential, comparing only with their own previous best. They know that when they conquer today, do all that can be done, do each act successfully, and give more in value than they receive in payment, their advance is assured. It's not a matter of if, but when. The universe cannot violate its own laws, and these principles align you so perfectly with those laws that your success becomes as inevitable as the sunrise. At the end of a day lived according to these principles, you don't collapse in exhaustion. You rest in satisfaction. You have planted good seeds in good soil. You have done your part perfectly. Now you can release all thought of work and enter a state of gratitude and quiet faith. You don't worry about whether your actions will bear fruit. You know they will, because you have acted in accordance with law. You don't anxiety about tomorrow. You know that when tomorrow becomes today, you will conquer it just as you conquered this day. This is the post technique that seals the work. Complete release after complete engagement. Just as the farmer doesn't dig up his seeds at night to check their progress, you don't mentally rehearse the day's work or worry about its outcomes. You trust the law of growth. You know that just as surely as physical seeds planted in soil will grow according to their nature, the seeds of action you have planted in the soil of this day will grow according to theirs. Your part is done for today. Tomorrow you will plant more seeds, tend what has been planted, and perhaps harvest what has matured. But tonight you rest in the satisfaction of a day conquered, a day completed, a day lived in the certain way. The path to efficient action is littered with the wreckage of misunderstanding, and the most fatal mistake is the one that seems most like success, confusing efficient action with fearful hustle. This is the revelation that changes everything, the distinction that separates those who burn out from those who break through. Hustling is what our culture celebrates. The grind, the endless hours, the sacrifice of everything for the goal. It's fueled by fear, the terror that if you stop for even a moment, someone else will take your place, your opportunity will vanish, your chance will be lost forever. This fear drives people to exhaustion, to breakdown, to a kind of frantic activity that looks productive but actually repels the very success it seeks to capture. Efficient action operates from an entirely different energy source. It's driven not by fear, but by faith. The calm certainty that your success is assured, that you are simply taking the physical steps necessary to receive what is already yours in consciousness. The hustler runs because they're being chased. The efficient actor moves with purpose because they know exactly where they're going. The hustler works from scarcity, always afraid there isn't enough time, money, opportunity. The efficient actor works from abundance, knowing that the universe has infinite resources and perfect timing. The difference in these two energies is not subtle. It's the difference between attraction and repulsion, between magnetism and resistance. When you hustle from fear, every cell in your body broadcasts lack. Your energy field radiates desperation, need, insufficiency. You might be taking massive action, but it's massive action that pushes away the very things you're trying to attract. You become like someone thrashing in water. The more frantically you move, the faster you sink. The universe responds to your vibration, not your effort, and the vibration of fearful hustling is the vibration of lack, no matter how much activity it generates. This is why so many hard workers remain poor, why so many busy people accomplish so little, why so many who sacrifice everything receive nothing in return. Efficient action has a completely different quality. It's calm, purposeful, focused. It comes from knowing rather than hoping, from being rather than trying to become. When you act efficiently, you're not trying to force the universe to give you something. You're preparing yourself to receive what the universe is already preparing to deliver. You're not fighting against time. You're working with it. You're not competing against others. You're completing your own journey. This quality of action creates a field of attraction around you. Opportunities seek you out. People want to work with you. Resources flow to you, not because you're grabbing for them, but because you've created the space for them to arrive. The second fatal mistake is equally seductive, waiting for perfect circumstances before taking perfect action. This is the trap of the perpetual preparer, the eternal student, the person who is always getting ready to get ready. They won't start the business until they have more capital. They won't apply for the position until they have more experience. They won't begin the project until conditions are ideal. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect alignment of circumstances, not realizing that perfect action creates perfect circumstances, not the other way around. Wattles is adamant on this point. You must act successfully in your current circumstances, no matter how limiting they appear. The janitor must clean floors with the excellence of an artist. The entry-level employee must perform their basic tasks with CEO-level consciousness. The struggling entrepreneur must run their tiny operation as if it were a Fortune 500 company. This is not about pretending or delusion. It's about understanding that consciousness creates circumstances, and you cannot create better circumstances from a consciousness that rejects current circumstances. Your current situation, no matter how humble or frustrating, is your launching pad. It's not your prison, it's your opportunity. Every task you're given is a chance to demonstrate your readiness for more. Every challenge is an invitation to grow into someone who can handle bigger challenges. Every limitation is a creative constraint that forces you to develop abilities you wouldn't develop if everything were easy. The person who waits for better circumstances before acting better will wait forever, because better circumstances come to those who act better in current circumstances. Consider the tragedy of brilliant people working in positions beneath them who protest their superiority by doing mediocre work. They think they're punishing their employer or circumstances, but they're only punishing themselves. By refusing to bring excellence to their current position, they ensure they'll remain in it. They're broadcasting to the universe that they can't be trusted with more responsibility, more opportunity, more resources. They're literally holding themselves in the very position they claim to hate through their refusal to fill it with excellence. The third mistake is perhaps the most common: divided focus, the curse of the modern age. You're doing today's work while worrying about tomorrow's problems. You're in a meeting while mentally composing emails. You're with your family while thinking about work. You're working while scrolling social media. This divided attention makes every action inefficient, incomplete, unsuccessful. You're physically present but consciously absent, and consciousness is where the power lies. When your focus is divided, your power is divided. When your attention is scattered, your results are scattered. You cannot create success through unsuccessful action, and action without full attention is unsuccessful by definition. The universe responds to the totality of your energy, not just your physical movements. When you bring only partial attention to a task, you get partial results. When you bring only half your consciousness to an action, you get half the outcome. This is mathematical, predictable, unavoidable. The person who has mastered efficient action brings their full presence to whatever is before them. When they write with their whole being. When they speak with complete attention. When they work with undivided focus. This doesn't mean they never rest. It means when they work completely, and when they rest completely. They don't contaminate their work with worry or their rest with guilt. They understand that pure action produces pure results. This divided focus often comes from a fundamental misunderstanding about time and productivity. People think they're saving time by multitasking, but they're actually wasting it through inefficiency. They think they're being productive by worrying about future tasks while doing current ones, but they're actually creating more work through the mistakes and incompleteness their division creates. The person who does one thing at a time with full attention accomplishes more than the person who does 3 things at once with divided attention. This is the paradox of focus. By doing less at any given moment, you accomplish more over time. Another variation of divided focus is the split between what you're doing and what you think you should be doing. You're in one job while constantly thinking about the job you want. You're in one relationship while fantasizing about another. You're living one life while dreaming of a different one. This creates a kind of energetic leak that drains your power and ensures you'll never fully succeed at anything. Excellence requires presence, and presence requires acceptance of where you are while moving toward where you're going. The person trapped in divided focus also falls into the comparison trap, constantly measuring their progress against others instead of focusing on their own journey. They're running their race while watching everyone else's, which causes them to stumble, slow down, or run in the wrong direction. They're so busy watching what others are achieving that they fail to achieve anything themselves. This is not efficient action, it's distracted action. And distracted action produces distracted results. These mistakes compound each other. Fearful hustling leads to exhaustion, which leads to divided focus. Waiting for perfect circumstances leads to inaction, which leads to desperation, which leads to fearful hustling when panic finally sets in. Divided focus leads to poor results, which creates fear, which drives hustling, which deepens the divided focus. It becomes a downward spiral that traps people in cycles of inefficiency despite tremendous effort. The way out is simple, but not easy. Commit to efficient action, as Wattles describes it. Act from faith, not fear. Act in your current circumstances with excellence. Act with undivided attention on the task at hand. When you do this, you break the cycle. You stop repelling your good through desperate action. You stop waiting for permission to be excellent. You stop diluting your power through division. You become a clear channel through which success can flow, unobstructed by fear, procrastination, or distraction. The master's tips that Wattles provides are not gentle suggestions, but stern commandments born from the unforgiving nature of universal law. His most powerful directive cuts through all excuses and delusions. Do not sit down and wait for some miracle to happen. If you do, you will never get it. This is not pessimism or lack of faith. It's the recognition that miracles follow action, not inaction. The universe is not a cosmic vending machine where you insert visualization and receive manifestation. It's a creative partner that responds to your demonstration of faith through action. The person waiting for a sign is missing the fact that their ability to act is the sign. The person waiting for the path to appear doesn't realize they create the path by walking. This truth is hard for many to accept because we've been sold a fantasy version of manifestation where you simply think happy thoughts and wait for delivery. But Wattles, writing at the dawn of this science, understood what many modern teachers have forgotten or chosen to ignore. The universe helps those who help themselves, not because the universe is conditional in its love, but because action is the language through which we communicate with the physical realm. You cannot receive physical results through mental work alone, any more than you can eat an imaginary meal and satisfy physical hunger. The person who sits and waits becomes increasingly passive, increasingly doubtful, increasingly desperate. Each day that passes without the miracle appearing weakens their faith a little more. They begin to wonder if they're doing the visualization wrong, if they're not worthy, if the universe has forgotten them. But the universe hasn't forgotten them. They've forgotten that they are co-creators, not passive recipients. They've forgotten that they have been given the power to act, and that this power is meant to be used. The miracle they're waiting for is waiting for them to take the first step. Wattles' second crucial insight is that you advance by being more than a match for your present place. This is the principle that guarantees progression for anyone who applies it, regardless of their starting point. You don't advance by being adequate, by meeting minimum requirements, by doing just enough to get by. You advance by overflowing your current position, by being so excellent that your current role cannot contain you, by growing so large that you must be promoted simply because you no longer fit where you are. This is not about working for free or being exploited. It's about understanding the mechanics of growth. A plant doesn't grow by remaining the same size. It grows by constantly pushing beyond its current boundaries, extending its roots deeper, reaching its branches higher, expanding in every direction. When it becomes too large for its pot, it must be transplanted to a larger container. This is exactly how human advancement works. You grow beyond your current position, and the universe must provide a larger position to contain your growth. The person who is merely adequate in their current role will remain in it indefinitely. They've given the universe no reason to promote them, no pressure that demands expansion. They fit perfectly where they are, so that's where they stay. But the person who brings CEO consciousness to an entry-level position creates an imbalance that must be corrected. They're like a size 10 foot in a size 6 shoe. Something has to give. Either they'll be promoted within their current organization, or they'll be pulled to a better opportunity elsewhere, or they'll create their own opportunity. The universe cannot leave such imbalance unresolved. This principle applies regardless of how menial or limiting your current position seems. The cashier who treats every customer like royalty, who makes their checkout line the best experience in the store, who brings joy and excellence to every transaction, is advancing. They're building consciousness, reputation, and skills that will inevitably lead to something better. The universe is watching, always watching, and it promotes those who demonstrate readiness for promotion through excellence in their current role. Wattles warns against the temptation to do inferior work because you feel your position is inferior. This is like a plant refusing to grow because it doesn't like its current pot. You don't punish your employer or your circumstances by doing poor work. You punish yourself. Every moment of inferior work is a vote for remaining inferior. Every task done poorly is a message to the universe that you can't be trusted with better tasks. You're literally creating the prison you claim to hate through your refusal to excel within it. The master tip that transforms everything is this: your growth must force the promotion. You don't wait for the promotion and then grow into it. You grow first, and the promotion follows as inevitably as thunder follows lightning. This requires a kind of faith that most people never develop. The faith to invest in growth before seeing the return, to excel before being rewarded, to give before receiving. But this is how the universe operates. The farmer must plant before harvesting. The athlete must train before competing. The student must learn before earning. Growth always precedes reward in the natural order. This forcing of promotion through growth is not aggressive or manipulative. It's natural and inevitable. When you become a 10-talent person in a 5-talent position, the imbalance creates a pressure that must be relieved. Either your current position will expand to match your growth, or you'll be moved to a position that matches your capacity. This is not favoritism or luck, it's law. The universe cannot violate its own principles, and one of its fundamental principles is that everything must find its right level. The person who understands this stops negotiating for incremental raises and starts growing for exponential advancement. They stop fighting for slightly better circumstances and start creating vastly better consciousness. They stop trying to manipulate external conditions and start developing internal capacity. They understand that the game is not about getting more, it's about becoming more, and then watching more come to match what you've become. Wattles also emphasizes the importance of staying in action even when you can't see how your current actions connect to your ultimate goal. The universe has infinite organizing power and can orchestrate connections and circumstances you could never imagine. Your job is not to figure out how, your job is to act in the certain way and trust the process. The person who only takes action when they can see the direct connection to their goal misses countless opportunities that seem unrelated but are actually perfectly orchestrated steps on their path. Consider how many success stories involve seemingly random connections, unexpected opportunities, chance meetings that changed everything. But these weren't really random. They were the result of consistent action, creating multiple points of contact with possibility. The person who acts consistently in the certain way creates so many potential connection points that synchronicity becomes inevitable. They're not lucky, they're positioned for luck through action. The final master tip is about maintaining the quality of your action regardless of immediate results. You don't plant seeds on Monday and abandon the field on Tuesday because nothing has sprouted. You don't act excellently for a week and then revert to mediocrity because you haven't been promoted yet. The certain way is not a technique you try. It's a way of life you embody. You act this way because this is who you are, not because you're trying to get something. This is the ultimate secret. When you act from being rather than trying to get, getting becomes inevitable. The bridge between Wattles' teachings and modern science reveals something profound. What seemed like mystical thinking in 1910 has become validated psychological and neurological fact. The concept of efficient action maps perfectly onto what modern psychology calls the flow state, that optimal experience where you become so absorbed in the present task that self-consciousness disappears, time distorts, and performance reaches its peak. When Wattles spoke of doing each act with your whole soul, he was describing what researchers like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi would later identify as the key to both excellence and satisfaction. In the flow state, action becomes effortless because you're not fighting against resistance. You're moving with the current of your own highest capability. This isn't merely coincidence or retrofitted interpretation. The characteristics Wattles described, complete presence, undivided attention, action from fullness rather than lack, are exactly the conditions that neuroscience has identified as necessary for flow. When you act in the certain way, your brain shifts from the beta waves of ordinary consciousness to the alpha and theta waves of deep engagement. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain associated with self-criticism and doubt, actually quiets down. You stop second-guessing yourself and start expressing your full capability. This is why action taken in the certain way feels different. It's literally engaging different neural pathways than ordinary divided action. The neuroscience goes even deeper. When you act from a state of already having rather than trying to get, you activate the brain's reward centers differently. Instead of the stress-inducing cortisol and adrenaline of desperate action, you produce dopamine and serotonin, the neurochemicals of satisfaction and well-being. Your brain literally creates a different chemical environment when you act from abundance versus scarcity. This chemical environment doesn't just feel better, it actually enhances performance, creativity, and problem-solving ability. You're not just imagining that you perform better when you act from faith rather than fear. You literally do, and brain scans can prove it. The principle of advance that Wattles taught, giving more in use value than you receive in cash value, has been validated by modern business research as the key to exponential growth. Darren Hardy's compound effect demonstrates mathematically what Wattles understood intuitively. Small, daily, excellent actions compound over time to create massive results. It's not the occasional heroic effort that creates success. It's the daily application of slightly above-average effort that creates extraordinary outcomes. When you give just 10% more value than you receive in payment, that 10% compounds day after day, week after week, until the accumulated excess value demands recognition and reward. This compounding principle explains why success often seems to come suddenly after long periods of apparent nothing. The person who has been acting in the certain way for months or years without obvious results hasn't been wasting their time. They've been building compound interest in the bank of consciousness. Then seemingly overnight they break through. But it wasn't overnight. It was the inevitable result of consistent deposits finally reaching critical mass. This is why Wattles insisted on doing all that can be done today. Each day's complete action adds to the compound effect, while incomplete days break the chain and reset the accumulation. Modern network science has also validated Wattles' insight about acting in your current environment. Research on what's called structural holes in social networks shows that advancement often comes not from knowing the right people, but from being excellently positioned where you are. When you fill your current position to overflowing, you become what network scientists call a bridge, someone who connects different networks, different levels, different opportunities. Your excellence makes you visible to networks above and around you that you couldn't access through trying to network your way up. The universe's delivery system often works through human networks, and excellence is what makes you visible to those networks. The psychological concept of self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to succeed, has been shown to be one of the strongest predictors of actual success. When Wattles taught acting from the consciousness of already being successful, he was building what psychologists would later recognize as unshakable self-efficacy. Each successfully completed action strengthens your belief in your ability to complete the next action. Each day conquered builds your confidence that you can conquer tomorrow. This isn't positive thinking. It's evidence-based confidence built through consistent, successful action. The research on goal achievement has also validated Wattles' approach. Studies show that people who focus on process goals, doing all that can be done today, achieve more than those who focus on outcome goals, making $1 million. The process focus keeps you in action, builds skills, creates opportunities. The outcome focus creates anxiety, impatience, and often paralysis. Wattles understood this distinction intuitively. He taught focusing on today's perfect action, not tomorrow's hoped-for result. Modern studies on wealth creation have confirmed another of Wattles's insights. Those who focus on providing value become wealthy, while those who focus on making money often remain poor. This seems paradoxical until you understand the psychology involved. When you focus on value, you're focused on others, on service, on contribution. This external focus makes you valuable to others, which makes them want to pay you. When you focus on getting money, you're focused on yourself, on taking, on extracting. This internal focus makes you less valuable to others, which makes them reluctant to pay you. The universe's economy runs on value, not on want. The principle of acting from abundance rather than scarcity has been validated by research on what's called abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. People operating from abundance make better decisions, see more opportunities, take more intelligent risks, and build better relationships. People operating from scarcity make fear-based decisions, miss opportunities, avoid necessary risks, and repel others with their desperate energy. This isn't just attitude. Brain scans show that scarcity thinking actually narrows perception and reduces cognitive function. When you act from lack, you literally become less capable of recognizing and seizing opportunities. The concept of cognitive load in psychology explains why divided focus is so destructive to success. Your brain has limited processing power, and when you divide that power among multiple concerns, each concern gets insufficient resources. This is why multitasking has been definitively proven to reduce performance. It's not efficient, it's fragmenting. When Wattles insisted on bringing your whole soul to each action, he was advocating what neuroscience now knows is optimal: single-pointed attention that allows your full cognitive resources to be brought to bear on the task at hand. The research on habit formation also supports Wattles's methodology. Studies show that successful people don't have more willpower, they have better habits. By making excellent action a daily practice, doing all that can be done, acting in a successful manner, you're not relying on motivation or willpower. You're building automatic patterns of excellence. After about 66 days of consistent practice, these patterns become neurologically wired as habits. You no longer have to decide to act excellently. You do it automatically, which frees your conscious mind for higher-level thinking and creativity. The field of positive psychology has validated the importance of what Wattles called acting from fullness. Research on human thriving shows that people perform best when they're operating from their strengths rather than trying to fix their weaknesses. When you act from the consciousness of what you have rather than what you lack, you're operating from strength. This strength-based action has been shown to produce better results, greater satisfaction, and more sustainable success than deficit-based action aimed at fixing what's wrong. Even the field of quantum physics offers intriguing parallels to Wattles's teachings. The observer effect in quantum mechanics shows that the act of observation affects what is observed. When you act from the consciousness of success, you're observing yourself as successful, which, according to quantum principles, affects the probability of successful outcomes. While the exact mechanisms are still debated, the correlation is striking. Consciousness affects reality at the quantum level, just as Wattles suggested it does at the practical level. The validation from multiple scientific disciplines suggests that Wattles wasn't just right by accident. He had tapped into fundamental principles of how reality operates. His insights weren't mystical, wishful thinking, but practical observations of laws as real as gravity. The difference is that these laws operate in the realm of consciousness and action rather than purely physical forces. When you align yourself with these laws through efficient action, success becomes as predictable as any scientific outcome. The proof of these principles isn't found only in research labs and scientific journals. It's written in the life stories of every person who has risen from obscurity to significance. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who didn't begin as a media mogul but as a local news anchor in Baltimore, who was told she was unfit for television news. Instead of accepting this limitation, she brought her whole soul to every broadcast, treating her local morning talk show as if it were a national platform. She didn't just do her job, she revolutionized it, bringing unprecedented empathy and authenticity to every interview. She gave more in-use value than anyone expected from a local talk show host, filling her position so completely that the universe had no choice but to promote her to a larger stage. What made Oprah different from countless other ambitious broadcasters wasn't her wish for success or her visualization of fame. It was her commitment to excellent action in her current position. While others were networking and politicking, trying to escape their local markets, she was perfecting her craft where she was. She treated every guest as if they were the most important person in the world. She prepared for every show as if millions were watching, even when it was only thousands. This is the certain way in action, not trying to get to the next level, but being so excellent at your current level that the next level comes to get you. The pattern repeats across every field of human endeavor. Consider the story of a barista named James, who transformed his entire life through the principle of efficient action. James didn't love making coffee. He had dreams of owning his own business, of financial freedom, of making a real impact. But instead of resenting his current position while waiting for something better, he decided to become the best barista his coffee shop had ever seen. He learned everything about coffee, the origins, the roasting process, the perfect extraction time. He remembered every regular customer's order, greeted them by name, asked about their lives. He didn't just make coffee, he created experiences. Within 3 months, customers were coming specifically for James's shift. They would wait in longer lines just to have him make their coffee. The owner noticed that sales were consistently higher when James was working. Other employees started asking James to train them. Without asking for it, James was promoted to shift supervisor. But he didn't stop there. He brought the same excellence to scheduling, to training, to inventory management. He treated the coffee shop as if it were his own business, implementing systems that improved efficiency and customer satisfaction. 6 months later, when a regular customer mentioned he was looking for a partner to help launch a new venture, a specialty coffee roasting company, he immediately thought of James. Not because James had been networking or pitching himself, but because his excellence was undeniable. James's consistent application of the certain way had made him visible to opportunity. Today, James is the co-owner of a successful coffee roasting business that supplies beans to dozens of cafes. He didn't escape his barista job. He grew through it into something greater. This same principle appears in the story of Sarah, a data entry clerk who seemed trapped in the most mundane of positions. While her co-workers did the minimum required, watching the clock and complaining about the monotony, Sarah decided to act as if she were the CEO of data entry. She developed systems to improve accuracy, created macros to increase speed, and documented processes that made training new employees easier. She didn't do this for recognition. She did it because acting excellently made the day pass faster and gave her a sense of purpose. Sarah's error rate was 0. Her processing speed was double the department average. But more importantly, her attitude transformed the energy of the entire office. She became the person everyone turned to with questions, the unofficial leader who solved problems before they reached management. When the company implemented a new database system, Sarah was the natural choice to lead the transition. Her excellence in a dead-end job had created a ladder where none existed before. Within 2 years, she was the head of a newly created data management department, earning 5 times her original salary. These aren't exceptional people with special talents. They're ordinary people who applied exceptional principles. The coffee shop owner who started by washing dishes with such care that customers commented on how clean the plates were. The janitor who kept the building so immaculate that when the property management company needed a new facilities manager, he was their first choice. The receptionist who handled every call with such professionalism that clients specifically requested to work with the company just because of their first impression. Each of these people understood what Wattles taught. You don't rise despite your current position. You rise through it. The principle even applies to those who seem to have advantages. Consider the entrepreneur who had funding, connections, and a great idea, but failed because he was always looking for the big score instead of doing today's work excellently. Compare him to the entrepreneur who started with nothing but applied the certain way. doing all that could be done each day, giving more value than charged, acting from abundance even when the bank account showed scarcity. The second entrepreneur might start slower, but their growth is sustainable, inevitable, compounding daily until it becomes unstoppable. We see this pattern in relationships too. The person who brings their whole soul to every interaction, who gives more love than they demand, who acts from fullness rather than need, creates relationships that thrive. They don't wait for the perfect partner before being a perfect partner. They don't withhold their best self until someone deserves it. They bring excellence to every conversation, every gesture, every moment of connection. And in doing so, they either transform their current relationships or attract new ones that match their level of consciousness. The evidence is everywhere once you know how to look for it. The teacher who treats every student as a future leader and watches them rise to meet that expectation. The parent who brings patience and presence to every interaction with their children and sees them flourish beyond what anyone predicted. The athlete who practices with perfect form even when no one is watching and performs flawlessly when everyone is. These aren't coincidences or exceptions. They're demonstrations of law as reliable as gravity. What makes these stories powerful is their accessibility. These aren't tales of overnight success or lucky breaks. They're stories of consistent daily application of principles that anyone can apply. You don't need special talents, connections, or resources. You need only to act in the certain way from wherever you are, with whatever you have, starting today. The universe doesn't play favorites. It responds to anyone who aligns with its laws. Wallace D. Wattles has given us the ultimate bridge between the mystical and the practical, between the infinite potential of consciousness and the finite requirements of physical existence. He understood what so many teachers miss, that faith without action is impotent, but action without faith is exhausting. The synthesis of these two creates a third force, a power that transcends both passive hoping and desperate striving. This is the force that builds empires, creates masterpieces, transforms lives. Faith is indeed the engine, generating the power of possibility, the energy of expectation, the force of focused intention. But an engine without transmission is just noise and heat, impressive perhaps, but ultimately useless for forward movement. Efficient action is that transmission, the mechanism that converts the raw power of faith into the forward movement of manifestation. Without it, you're like a powerful car with its engine racing, but its wheels spinning in place. You generate a lot of energy, make a lot of noise, perhaps even create an impressive display, but you don't actually go anywhere. This is the frustration of so many who have mastered the art of visualization but neglected the science of action. They have tremendous power but no way to apply it to the road of reality. The synthesis Wattles provides isn't just adding action to faith or faith to action, it's understanding that they are two aspects of the same force. Your thoughts create the blueprint, your feelings provide the power, and your actions build the structure. Remove any element and the creative process collapses. This is why both the mystic who refuses to act and the hustler who refuses to believe end up in the same place, frustrated, exhausted, wondering why the universe isn't cooperating with their efforts. When you understand this synthesis, you stop seeing spiritual practice and practical action as separate activities. Your meditation becomes preparation for excellent action. Your visualization becomes the blueprint for what you'll build today. Your affirmations become the consciousness from which you'll operate, and your actions become the physical expression of your spiritual understanding. There's no division between your spiritual life and your practical life. They're one life, expressing itself in different dimensions. This unity of the mystical and practical makes you unstoppable. You have the vision of the mystic and the discipline of the builder. You have the faith of the dreamer and the focus of the achiever. You have the consciousness of already having and the commitment to daily doing. You're not torn between two worlds. You're operating as a complete being, using all your faculties, expressing your full nature. This is what it means to be made in the image of the Creator, to think, to feel, and to act in harmony with creative law. Your dream is not in some distant future, waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for permission. waiting for you to become worthy of it. Your dream exists now, in this moment, as a potential that is as real as the oak tree within the acorn. The power to create it is in your mind, not as mere imagination, but as the faculty that impresses thought upon the creative substance of the universe. And the power to receive it is in your hands, not metaphorically but literally, in your ability to act, to do, to build, to serve, to create in the physical realm. Right now, in this very moment, you have everything you need to begin the transformation from where you are to where you want to be. Stop waiting for the path to appear before you like a yellow brick road leading to your destiny. The path doesn't appear to those who wait, it appears beneath the feet of those who walk. Each step you take in the certain way creates the next section of path. Each action performed with excellence lights the next lamp on your journey. You don't need to see the whole staircase, you just need to take the next step with the faith that it's leading somewhere magnificent. Lay the next stone perfectly with your whole soul, with complete presence, and watch as the path reveals itself before you, one perfect stone at a time. Your future is not being determined by some cosmic committee deciding whether you deserve success. Your future is being built right now, in this moment, through the quality of action you're taking today. Every email you write with care is a brick in your future edifice. Every task you complete with excellence is a thread in your future tapestry. Every person you serve with genuine value is an investment in your future abundance. You're not waiting for your future. You're constructing it action by action, moment by moment, day by day. The power you seek is not outside you, waiting to be found or earned or granted. The power is within you, waiting to be expressed through aligned action. You are not a beggar at the feast of life, hoping for scraps of success. You are an heir to infinite abundance, learning to claim your inheritance through the dignity of excellent action. Every time you act in the certain way, you're declaring your true identity to the universe. Every time you give more value than you receive, you're aligning yourself with the law of increase. Every time you complete a day fully, you're building the consciousness of completion that attracts greater opportunities for achievement. The transformation you seek doesn't require you to become someone else. It requires you to become who you really are. Beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, beneath the habits of mediocrity, you are a creative being with infinite potential. Your work is not to acquire power, but to remove the barriers to its expression. Each day you act in the certain way, you remove another layer of limitation. Each task you complete with excellence dissolves another doubt. Each moment you act from abundance rather than lack strengthens your true identity. This is not a promise of easy success or overnight transformation. This is a promise of inevitable success through aligned action. When you commit to the certain way, you're not hoping for success. You're creating it with the same certainty that a farmer creates a harvest through planting and tending. The universe doesn't play favorites, but it does respond to those who understand and apply its laws. When you act in harmony with these laws, success isn't a possibility. It's a mathematical certainty. Your circumstances right now, no matter how limiting they appear, are not your prison. They're your raw materials. Your current job, your present relationships, your existing resources, these are not obstacles to your dream, but the very substances from which your dream will be built. A sculptor doesn't complain about the block of marble. She sees the masterpiece within it and removes everything that isn't the masterpiece. Your life is that block of marble, and your excellent actions are the chisel strokes that reveal the masterpiece within. Here is your challenge, and it's deceptively simple. Live just one single day by Wattles' formula. Tomorrow, when you wake, approach the day as if it were both a fresh canvas and a final exam. Focus only on today, release yesterday's failures and tomorrow's anxieties completely. Identify what can be done in this one day and commit to doing all of it. Not most of it, not the important parts, but all that can be done. And here's the crucial part. Do each act with your whole soul. Whether you're brushing your teeth or closing a business deal, bring your complete presence and excellence to it. Give more value than expected in every interaction. Act from the consciousness of success, not the hope for it. This is not a 30-day challenge or a year-long commitment. This is one day. Surely you can maintain perfect focus and excellent action for just one day. But here's what will happen. At the end of that day, you will feel something you may have never felt before. The deep satisfaction of a day completely lived, fully expressed, perfectly executed. You will understand viscerally what Wattles meant by efficient action. You will know in your bones the difference between desperate doing and powerful being in action. And once you've tasted this, once you've experienced the power of living in the certain way, you will never want to go back to the old way of scattered, fearful, incomplete action. I challenge you to document this day. Write down how you feel at the end of it. Notice the quality of your sleep that night. Observe how you feel when you wake the next morning. Share your experience in the comments below, not for validation, but for verification. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're conducting an experiment in applied metaphysics, testing whether these century-old principles hold true in your modern life. The results will speak for themselves, and they will speak loudly. But be warned, this one perfect day might ruin you for mediocrity forever. Once you experience what it feels like to conquer a day completely, to act from fullness, to give more than you receive, you might find it impossible to return to half-hearted living. You might discover that excellence is actually easier than mediocrity, because it aligns you with the flow of the universe rather than against it. You might realize that you've been working harder to achieve less by fighting against natural law rather than flowing with it. If you're ready to unite your faith with powerful action, if you're tired of waiting in the cosmic waiting room for your turn at success, if you're prepared to discover that your turn is now and has always been now, then subscribe to the Master's Legacy and press the bell. This is not just another self-help channel filling your head with feel-good platitudes. This is a transmission of practical wisdom from the masters who discovered the laws of success and documented them for those brave enough to apply them. The next step on your journey awaits, but it's not a step you take with your feet. It's a step you take with your consciousness, expressed through your hands, manifested through your actions, demonstrated through your excellence. The universe is watching, waiting, ready to respond to your demonstration of understanding. Will you remain in the waiting place hoping for a sign? Or will you recognize that your ability to act is the sign, your desire is the permission, and this moment is the perfect time to begin? Comment below with your commitment. I'm ready to act in the certain way. Your future self is waiting to thank you for the decision you make right now.